I guess getting started with where you're at right now. Obviously, immigration is a key issue, and I've always found you to be just not just honest about the way that immigration is, but straight up about the problems that are occurring, and not doing the right wing talks, obviously, in regards to where they make up things about what's going on the border. But you've also been there. You've been in front of this, and I remember a lot of times you confronting the child separation policy and other issues that have been out there. What are you thinking of Trump's immigration policy, or if you want to call it a policy, the unconstitutional nature of it, or whatnot, and his plans to do things like put people in Guantanamo and deport them chained on planes and things like that. Like, what are your thoughts on immigration policy right now?
Well, I'm glad you're asking me, and I'm glad you're asking me because I live here. I live in El Paso, which is, as you know, conjoined with Ciudad Juarez. It forms the largest binational community anywhere in the Western Hemisphere, probably anywhere in the world. There's like 2.5 million of us, from two countries, speaking two languages, two cultures, who come together and form one people. And it's fucking extraordinary and beautiful and amazing. And if I may say so, it's magical. I've lived here my entire life. Amy and I are raising our kids here. um, this is really the best of America. A quarter of those with whom I live in this great city were born somewhere else. And they chose us. They chose America, and they chose this country, yes, to do better for themselves and to do better for their kids. I mean, all of us would do the same. But they also chose us to do better for America. And their very presence has done that. We're one of the safest cities in America. Some years we are the safest city, Scott, in the entire country, bar none. El Paso, Texas, the city of immigrants. And I would argue we're the safest, we're one of the strongest, we're one of the most successful, not in spite of the presence of immigrants, but because of the presence of immigrants. So to answer your question, every single one of us, Republican, Democrat, independent, or otherwise, would agree that our immigration system sucks, doesn't work. The border is broken. We need to fix it. And the blame does not extend solely to Republicans. I think Democrats must shoulder a lot of this as well, especially when they were in positions of power, having the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. And the last time we really got major immigration reform was when Ronald Reagan was the president of the United States of America. So I would love to see a change to our quota system, where if you're coming in from Mexico or the Philippines or India, you're waiting 20, 25, 30 years if you're in line wanting to do it the right way. And Scott, you can understand, while I don't think it justifies, but you can understand why someone might want to jump that line and say, fuck this, I'm not waiting 20, 25 years to get out of this situation I'm in and to get to a better place. I don't think they should do that, but people are doing that, and this is a reason why. So yeah, let's rewrite our immigration laws so that you remove these quotas, so that you make it easier for people to come here legally, orderly, safely, to join family, to work a job that is otherwise going unfilled right here in El Paso or somewhere else in the US, to escape persecution or brutality or potentially death for yourself or your kids. I want this system to work. It doesn't work today. Let's all admit that. And then let's all get together and work on the solutions that will make it possible for us to be the beneficiaries of immigration to this country that makes this country better and, yes, even greater. But you're asking about what the Trump administration is doing. These are the folks who came up with family separation, came up with kids in cages. Donald Trump, who would talk about an invasion of migrants who are coming over to take our country, rapists and criminals, thugs and killers. Scott, this is what prompted someone in 2019 to drive to El Paso, Texas, armed with an AK 47, walk into a Walmart in my hometown, and in a matter of minutes, kill, slaughter 23 absolutely innocent people. And when cops arrested him, he said, "Hey, I came here to kill Mexicans. I'm stopping this migrant invasion that Donald Trump told me about." Just yesterday, we learned about a young girl, 11 years old in Dallas, Texas, who killed herself. Her friends at school, or I should say her classmates at school, kept telling her that she was going to be deported, that ICE was coming for her and her family. 11 fucking years old. Imagine the anxiety and the stress that you feel if you think that you are going to be separated from your family, from your friends, from your school, from your life, from the only country you've ever known in the entire time that you have been on this planet. And I guarantee you, she will not be the only tragedy. When we're sending people to Guantanamo Bay or to jungle prisons in Panama, who are not from Panama or who are not from Cuba, in the case of Guantanamo Bay, you are doing irreparable harm to them. And listen, even if you are callous and you could care less about how these people are doing, and God bless you if that's the way that you approach the world, and I hope you're okay with yourself at the end of the day and at the end of your life. But if you are that person, I also want to stress to you that you are going to do irreparable harm to the United States of America. The genius of this country is we've been able to incorporate people from the planet over into this country to become American citizens, to create the greatest products, to produce the greatest leaders, to write the best poetry, to make the best rock and roll. I mean, whatever the world needs, whatever the world benefits from, by and large, it is coming from America. And it's not just from people who were born here or can count their generations five back. It is folks who came here 5 days ago, 5 months ago, 5 years ago. So this is not only inhumane, it's not only cruel, it's not going to end up in more brutality, suffering, and death. This is going to screw America badly. And so, look, you mentioned some of the stuff that we did in the first Trump administration. Many of us in El Paso, led by myself and now Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, asked the country to come to Tornillo, Texas, which was the epicenter of family separation, where they're taking young kids who'd been separated from their parents. And we held vigil and we testified to the rest of the country what was going on. The public pressure that we brought to bear on the Trump administration, this was in 2018, forced them to change their family separation policy, their so called zero tolerance policy on the border. And it made life better, not only for those migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers, it made life better for this country. So there is power in people. You may wonder, hey, do I call my representative? Do I bother writing a letter to the editor? Does anybody even care what I think? Yes, they do. You have that power for as long as we are still a democracy. The power resides in you, and you had better use it. You'd better use it now.
And you were a congressman before. We've sent we're closing in on 200,000 letters to members of Congress, and I always recommend it's a baseball game. You have to catch the ball, throw the ball, hit the ball, run the bases, and you don't know what's going to break through. As a member of Congress, were letters to them and phone calls to you, direct from your constituents. Did that matter? Did you listen to that? Do you think it matters to other people now that are in Congress?
I was in Congress for 6 years. Incredibly fortunate to hold that job. And yes, when calls would flood in on a given issue, when we'd get emails, letters, and I don't know if they still have them, Scott, but back in the day, this wasn't that long ago. I left Congress in 2019. We had fax machines, so
Yeah,
faxes would roll in. We
right.
paid attention. Folks would come into my office and say, "Hey, Beto, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but they lit up the switchboard in the Capitol. People are really pissed off or excited for, or want your ear on this or that issue." And it would focus your attention, and you try to figure out, hey, what's going on? How am I responsive to these people? And you know what? Just to be candid and to say something that most members of Congress would admit, if you administered them truth serum, their number one job before anything else is to get reelected. If they fear that their reelection is in jeopardy because of a position they hold or the inaction that's on display right now from far too many, including far too many of our fellow Democrats, and you threaten that reelection with the power of people in that constituency, I guarantee you will get their attention, and very often you will get their action. But Scott, more than any of that, I held a open to all, no holds barred town hall meeting every single month for 6 years that I was in Congress. It was in a neutral site. We weren't playing favorites. It wasn't a captured audience. Anyone could walk in the door, and everyone got access to the microphone. I would say, in fact, I remember we held one at the El Paso Community College. The community college staff came in and shut down the town hall because we'd been there for 4 hours because I was intent on listening to everyone. When they shut it down, I went into the parking lot and I continued to listen to people acoustic, unplugged, to hear what was on their mind. That made me such a better representative. It always reminded me who it was that I was accountable to, who I was representing, and to some degree, in a healthy way, who it is I feared. I needed to come back every month and justify my time in office. Hey, Beto, why did you vote for this bill? Hey, Beto, I told you that the VA isn't returning my calls. I have PTSD. I've had it since I was in Vietnam. I can't get in to see a behavioral health specialist. What the fuck are you going to do about it? When someone's in my face saying that, you better believe I turn to my staff and I say, hey, you work with this guy and you get him in the VA tomorrow. And sir, here's my cell phone number. You call me back. One of the things I'd encourage all of your viewers and listeners to do is twofold. One, if you are able to, please call your member of Congress and tell them how you feel. It's 202 224 3121. 202 224 3121. Say, hey, if you're a senator, I don't want you to vote for any of Trump's nominees. If you're a House member, the Republicans have a very, very slim majority. Do not help them out. Allow them to own any of this. Do not support this slide towards authoritarianism. The second thing I would ask you to do is to call that switchboard again, talk to the staffer in your member of Congress's office, and demand that they hold a live, in person town hall in their district. Telephone town halls, fuck that shit. Social media posts, performative crap outside of locked federal buildings. We look weaker than we did before when we're doing that stuff. You show up and listen to your people. And look, if you're a member of Congress and you're afraid to show up because you don't have all the answers, please know that we understand. You're up against the most tyrannical, authoritarian, corrupt administration in US history. Nobody has all the answers. But that furthers the case for you showing up and listening to your constituents, because I believe in crowdsourcing this sucker. And the folks who come to that town hall, they're going to have some of the answers for you. And also, nothing's going to get you off the dime like having to face the people who put you in office in the first place. So please call your member of Congress, call your senator, ask them to hold a live in person town hall in your district. And the number to do that is 202 224 3121. Know who your member of Congress or senator is ahead of time. And when the person answers on the other end of that line at the Capitol switchboard, ask to be put through to their office. Tell them what you expect from them, and then ask them to hold that town hall. If we do that, we're going to get greater responsiveness, representation, and action. And I think this moment demands it.
Absolutely. And if you were in Congress right now and you saw what Doge is doing in regards to Social Security Administration, VA, like breaking down these organizations and whatnot, how would you, as a Democratic minority or not, how would you respond? Do you think? I know that's a big hypothetical. So, but like, how would you recommend maybe other Democrats respond to it?
Yeah, so in addition to holding these live town hall meetings where you have a chance to share with your constituents what you're working on, what's going on, hear from them being held accountable, in addition to voting against any part of Trump's agenda, do not lend a finger to authoritarianism. Do not help him move this country from a democracy to a tyranny. Do not be party to this at all. In addition, instead of standing outside of locked federal buildings in DC, go back to your district and walk into the VA, walk into the IRS office, talk to the administrator there, talk to the managers, talk to the folks who are working the line, talk to the veterans who are going in there to try to get help, and then reflect their stories back to us. And where possible, play the same game that they're doing. Say, hey, I want to see Mr. or Ms. Administrator, who it is you've just let go in responsive to Doge's request. And then maybe see if you can get in touch with those people who've been let go. In many instances, as you know, Scott, these are veterans. These are veterans who served honorably for this country, put their lives on the line, were perfectly willing to lose them for the rest of us, have come back with post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, other unique injuries from service and combat, are now employed at the VA trying to help others who've been through that situation. And Doge, Musk, and Trump have fired them en masse. Let's go talk to them and find out how they're doing. If we can help them in any way, let's help them. And it could be financially, it could be politically, it could be trying to get their jobs reinstated, it could be where they're comfortable publicizing their stories and putting pressure on the administration. Look, when they're just nameless numbers, when they're just like, the federal bureaucracy, who gives a fuck, right? It's just, it's not, it doesn't engender sympathy. It doesn't engender action. It doesn't move us. But when it is a person, hey, this woman served our country in Afghanistan. She came back. She's now serving veterans day in and day out, and she just got fired, and she can't pay the note on her mortgage. She cannot feed her family. And I want you to meet her. That is going to build public pressure. That's going to form the political will. That produces some of the change that I know we are capable of. And again, Scott, to reiterate, when Trump did this the first term, we brought people power to bear and it changed his actions. We ended family separation. He didn't end it, he was forced to end it by us.
Yeah.
For those who think he's this immovable strongman, that Musk, the richest man in the world, he's bigger and more powerful than we can ever be. Bullshit. Nuts. We, all 330 million of us, are more powerful than any one person, including those two guys. And if we believe in this democracy, then we believe in the power of people. And now is the time to turn it on.
Yo, doesn't it make you just want to get up and do something, like rip through the wall like a Kool-Aid man? Like, just it really, you're one of the best at that, to get action from the power. One of the, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but one of the most common questions we've gotten probably over 100 times so far is, what's next for you? Well, are you going to run again? Like, what is your plan in regards to everything? Because honestly, we need your voice. We need your voice out there. And I know you are on Substack now. So do you plan to use your voice, to fight back more and whatnot?
I'm a big believer that action is the key to victory, that action is the antidote to despair. If you're depressed right now, you're only human. And I'd be worried if you weren't somehow affected personally by what's going on in this country. But if you want to get out of that hole, you must act. And is action posting on Stack and tweeting and saying whatever you got to say on Instagram? Yes, I guess to a degree. But if you want to take it a step further, I lead an organization here in Texas called Powered by People. The website is poweredxpeople.org. We believe in action, and I'm a volunteer in Powered by People, by the way, just like thousands of other people from across the country. What we do and what we're focused on right now, for example, is helping Texas volunteers get their certification to register voters in Texas. These are the folks who are the focus of voter intimidation and voter suppression, the people who've been drawn out, written off, taken for granted, who aren't supposed to participate in this next election. And frankly, were effectively prevented from participating in the last one. We are showing up where they are, where they live, where they go to school, to register them, to bring them onto the rolls, to stay in touch with them, and to encourage them to vote in 2026 in these important midterm elections where Texas has a number of competitive congressional districts. We could
Hmm.
potentially take control of the state house. We could defeat John Cornyn, who is an aider and a better and a quisling in this Trump administration. But even before that, there are municipal and school board elections taking place in Texas in May of this year. The time is now. If you want to join that effort, and to be clear, this is not an easy job. This is not sit on your couch and phone it in. And no offense to folks who are doing that, that's probably important too. This is getting out there and face to face, eyeball to eyeball, human to human, meeting other people at this moment of truth and bringing them into our democracy, literally getting them on the rolls, and then staying in touch with them on a personal basis, not broadcast, blast emails or impersonal text messages asking for $5. No, saying, hey, Scott, I registered you last week at the University of Texas at El Paso campus. Thank you for getting on the rolls. There's an important election coming up for your school board. Here's what's on the line. I want to make sure you have your voter registration card. You know when early voting starts. You know who the candidates are. And if you have a question, I am your voting Sherpa, and I'm going to help you get that done. So, folks, I know that so many of you, because many of you have been reaching out to me, are saying, hey, what the hell do I do? That's one thing you can do. You can join Indivisible, which is bringing people together on a community basis in person, which I just think is critical at this moment all across the country. Go do that. Find some other way to be in community, in person, physically with other folks at this moment. It's good for your mental health. And I think it's absolutely necessary if we're ultimately going to overcome this slide towards tyranny and authoritarianism, which we are definitely on right now. And last point on this, just put yourself in the mind of the generations to come, your great grandkids, who are going to be looking back at us, the people of 2025, and they're going to say, look, you had a guy who essentially said, no, he didn't essentially say, he said yesterday, I am king. A guy who said, whatever I do is legal inherently because I'm saving the country, who promised us he would be a dictator on day one. And he's doing everything to fulfill that promise possible. Imagine the people of the future who look back on us and said, okay, hold on a second. This guy said he was going to do all this evil shit, and you elected him nonetheless into the most powerful position on the planet. And then once he was president, he started to enact this promised agenda faster than light. And what did you guys do? Did you just step back and let it happen? Did you just assume that this was inevitable? Did you wait for some cavalry to ride to our rescue? Or did you get up and get after it and do whatever you could with what you had where you were? And did you save the day at the end of the day? Were you found wanting or did you come through for us? We have to come through. Those alive today are counting on us, those people of the future. Last thing on this, I promise, Scott. I know I'm talking a lot, but you got me fired up. I just happened to be reading this really incredible book about the Peloponnesian War. This is the war between Athens, the democracy, and its alliance. It starts in 431 BC, and Sparta, this tyranny, this authoritarian regime. And this war lasts más o menos for about 30 years. And really, what was going to be decided in that war was whether government of, by, and for the people was going to survive on this planet. Spoiler alert, the democracies lose. And it will take nearly 2,000 years, 2 millennia, before it reappears on this earth in the form of the United States of America. And really, that's what Lincoln is invoking during the Civil War, the last great crisis of our Constitution, our democracy, before the one that we're in, where he wonders aloud, will this last best hope of earth, those are Lincoln's words, will it survive or will it perish? And basically, he was telling his fellow Americans back then in the 1860s, it's up to you. And I'm telling you, Scott, and everyone who's on this, it is up to us at this moment whether we are going to remain a free people or whether we will lose it for all time, and whether it will reappear, whether in 200 years or 2 millennia. God only knows. But I don't want to find out. I want to save it today. And today is the day that we have to commit ourselves to the action that actually allows us to get that done.
Well, that answers my last question. I was saying, give us some inspiring words, and that's how I always end it. We hope that your leadership really shines through at this moment because we need it, and just the truth that you speak. We really appreciate you. I know that there's tens of thousands of people that just adore you and the readers that we have. I've always been a huge fan of yours because I like people who cut through the BS and get straight to the heart of the matter. Like blah blah blah. You have all this propaganda on this side, or you have this other these catchphrases and things like that. But like, what can we do to solve the problem? And it seems like people really take into that, and we need that kind of leadership, especially right now. And thank you for being straight up about everything going on. We'll make sure that if you miss the rest of this, this will be posted early next week so that you can check it out. And we'll also post Beto's website and also his Substack link in the body of the post for this. And thank you so much, Beto. We really appreciate your time. Hope to have you back soon.
Thank you so much, Scott. Thank you for what you're doing. And thanks to everyone on here who's keeping the faith and keeping up the fight. We'll see you out there. Adios.
Onward.